Difference is of the essence of humanity. Difference is an accident of birth, and it should therefore never be the source of hatred or conflict. The answer to difference is to respect it. Therein lies a most fundamental principle of peace respect for diversity. Therefore, according to Keith Wilson in his article, Multicultural Education, multicultural education relates to education and instruction designed for the cultures of several different races in an educational system. This approach to teaching and learning is based upon consensus building, respect, and fostering cultural pluralism within racial societies. Multicultural education acknowledges and incorporates positive racial idiosyncrasies into classroom atmospheres. In addition, there are 5 dimensions to the multicultural education approach, which include content integration, knowledge construction, equity pedagogy, prejudice reduction, and lastly, empowering school culture and social structure. Content integration, the first dimension of multicultural education, is very simple and straightforward. Teachers should incorporate and integrate materials, examples, and content from various diversities and cultures into their teaching. This can include books, pictures, recipes, articles, etc. that come from a different background to help African Americans, Mexican Americans, Japanese Americans grasp key concepts, theories, and principles. The teacher's role in knowledge construction process moves to a different level because this is the stage where they help students to understand, investigate, and determine the implicit cultural assumptions, in addition to the frames of reference and perspectives of the discipline they're teaching, according to Tucker, 1998. An example used in the article was talking about westward expansion. They state that just because it was a westward expansion in Americans' eyes, it was a northern expansion to Mexicans, eastern to Japanese students, etc. We need to address these measures during content presentation. That way our diverse students can feel as if their perspective matters, and so they have a vivid picture of what we're exactly discussing. When it comes to the equity pedagogy dimension of multicultural education, according to NEA Today's Michelle Tucker's interview with Jane Banks, teachers change their methods to enable kids from diverse racial groups and both genders to achieve. The example Banks gives Tucker is that equity pedagogy has to do with the physics teacher not so much adding content about women physicists and African American physicists, but rather the physics teacher changing the way she teaches physics. For example, so that girls and African Americans can learn physics. Basically, in equity pedagogy, the teacher is responsible for modifying how he or she teaches the content in order for diverse students, such as African Americans, Mexican Americans, or Asian Americans, to learn it more appropriately, effectively, and efficiently. The fourth dimension is exactly as it sounds, prejudice reduction. This is where the teacher tries to reduce the prejudices in the classroom and school, promoting the uniqueness of all different cultures. Teachers are aware that students come to school with stereotypes of certain racial cultures. Therefore, this dimension is aimed at altering students' preconceptions and misconceptions in hopes of forming positive racial attitudes and acceptance towards one another. School culture and social structure are powerful determinants of how students learn to perceive themselves. These factors influence the social interactions that take place between students and teachers, and among students both inside and out of the classroom, according to Banks and Banks. Allen and Bacon agree with their statement saying that group and labeling practices, sports participation, and interaction of the staff and the components must be examined to create a school culture that empowers students from all backgrounds. While dealing with the 5 dimensions of multicultural education, there are many text resources out there that incorporate multiculturalism throughout the reading, which can be easily integrated into the classroom. Some familiar examples, just to name a few, are The House on Mango Street by Sandra Cisneros, Esperanza Rising by Pam Munoz Ryan, and The Snowy Day by Ezra Jack Keats. The author of House on Mango Street is a Mexican American, or in other terms, a Chicana. The book is about Esperanza, a 12-year-old who moves with her family to a new apartment in a poor area of Chicago. The book talks about her life encounters over the year where she faces making new friends, developing her first crush, and enduring sexual assault. She begins writing to express herself and her feelings while giving her a way to escape where she lives in the poor neighborhood she is surrounded by. The next book that incorporates the use of multiculturalism is Esperanza Rising, a story about a Mexican girl who is an only child and pampered from head to toe by her wealthy father. He owned a ton of land in Mexico, but when the Mexican Revolution occurred in the 1930s, Esperanza's life took a turn for the worse. Many people resented wealthy landowners, which resulted in Esperanza's father being killed. Papa's land was then taken over by his evil stepbrother, and Mama is faced to make many quick decisions that will tremendously affect her and Esperanza's life if wrong choices are made. Another great book incorporated into multicultural education is a classic, The Snowy Day. It is a cute little storybook about a boy named Peter who wakes up to see that snow has covered the ground overnight. He goes out and plays and encounters challenges and fun that only the snow brings. This book was written in the 60s and going against the norm. Keats makes the main character Peter an African-American boy. Peter was the first African-American main character to be present in children's picture books. There are many benefits and roadblocks of using multiculturalism instructional strategies in the classroom. According to Garcia and the National Association of Multicultural Education, multicultural education helps students develop positive self-image, offers students an equitable educational opportunity, allows multiple perspectives and ways of thinking, combats stereotypes and prejudicial behavior, and teaches students to critique society in the interest of social justice. However, incorporating multiculturalism into the classroom is not always easy and has a few roadblocks. Schools have to be prepared to effectively integrate this kind of education into their classrooms. This type of education system depends and can only function on a diverse staff that is competent and aware of the different cultures around us and inside of the school. Multicultural education requires a staff that is not only diverse, but also culturally competent. Garcia states that educators must be aware, responsive, and embracing of the diverse beliefs, perspectives, and experiences. They must also be willing and ready to address issues of controversy. These issues include, but are not limited to, racism, sexism, religious intolerance, classism, and ageism. There are many ways to incorporate multicultural education strategies into the classroom as well. Some examples are integrating reading lists that are very diverse that can help demonstrate and reach the topic of universal human experience across a wide variety of cultures, go further than the textbook and include articles and stories passed on by certain cultures to address content, and supplementing curriculum with current events and news stories outside the textbook that can draw parallels between the distant experiences of the past and the world today, according to Garcia, 2014. In addition, teachers can assign students in creating projects that deal with multicultural backgrounds and conducting research on an ethnicity besides the students, community service and participation, and including multicultural fairs into the school. Multiculturalism is a very important aspect in the teaching world and classroom instruction. Bringing more authentic experiences into the classroom while making learning about different cultures fun and learning about whom the students really are as a whole while truly accepting them for that is key to joy, passion, and love that they hold for one another. In conclusion, all of us in the academy and in the culture as a whole are called to renew our minds if we are to transform educational institutions in society so that the way we live, teach, and work can reflect our joy in cultural diversity, our passion for justice, and our love for freedom.